When I ring the bell, we're going to initially use our body. And of course, our body is made up of the 5 senses. I'm assuming most of us have our eyes closed, but even if you have your eyes open, nothing is unimportant. Whatever you experience through your 5 senses, they are doorways into this present moment that we call the now. Our sense of hearing, our sense of smell, our sense of taste. Obviously, if it's you might still taste something that you had consumed earlier on today. Your sense of touch. We might spend a little bit more attention on the sense of touch because there are so many different dimensions to it. But when I ring the bell, just arrive in your bodies, begin experiencing what this present moment means to you, what it feels like. Inhabiting your body. You can roll your shoulders around if you like. Just to remind yourself of the life that's flowing through you, your power over your body through your intention. Intentionally awakening the surfaces all around your body. And we arrive from the past, from all those conversations that we were having a moment ago. We arrive on the cushions and the mats and the chairs underneath us. From all that happened this morning, from all that happened last night and the days before that and the weeks and the months. We arrive from the imaginings, the projections into the future. Awakening these surfaces underneath your body. Awakening your skin, which has 2, perhaps even more dimensions to it. There are those parts of the skin that are covered in clothing. And so let's pay attention to this part where you can feel the texture, the smoothness or the roughness of your clothing. You might even feel the tiny air bubbles that are trapped in between the fabric of your clothing and your skin. You might feel the wrinkles, the folds, the weight of the fabric. Does it feel loose or tight as it wraps itself around your body? And do you remember a moment ago we were noticing where the mind was? But as we explore these sensations that we experience around our body, as we explore our clothing, as we explore the surfaces underneath us, and you'll notice the surface underneath you, you'll notice whether it's soft, whether it's hard, whether it's supporting your body well or not. And then there are those other meanings such as comfortable, uncomfortable, too hard, too soft. All of these are indicators that the mind is beginning to align itself with the body. And so the mind is very gently leaving the past, it's leaving the future, and it too is arriving, aligning itself into this present moment. And as this happens, you may begin to feel a little bit lighter as you begin to notice some of your burdens dissolving and melting away. If you still experience problems, if you can still experience problems, it might be worth examining whether they're in this moment or whether from this moment you're thinking about the past or the future. There's a distinction. And then you begin to recognize that if, generally speaking, if there is a problem, I'm thinking about it from this moment. And then we simply decide that we're not going to push against this. We're going to give the mind permission to move in whatever direction it would like to. So we're going to let go of the need to tell thoughts to go away. And a very common one when you sit down or lie down in a practice such as this is, I'm supposed to be meditating, so go away thoughts. I shouldn't be thinking about this. I shouldn't be thinking about that. And then a conversation begins between that which you are, the observer, the witnessing presence, and the thought. But instead, when we give it permission to exist, it has nobody to talk to, it has nothing to hold on to, and then it just drifts away like a cloud. But then for some of us, in our present moment, as you continue to inhabit your body more deeply, you begin to recognize sensations that are uncomfortable. And it's quite normal, each and every one of us, we carry some of those labels, illnesses, pains, words that we've come to define as sensations that are uncomfortable. It might simply be because of you're not used to the posture you're sitting or using right now. Or it might be a more chronic sensation, something that's been with you for some time. And so what do we do here? Because there's a pain, there's something I call a pain, and it's with me right now, and I'm trying to accept it, but I can't because it's very uncomfortable. I've tried living with this for a long, long time. And I know that many of you may not be experiencing discomfort in this way. And so you may be wondering why I'm talking about it. But as long as we have human bodies, as long as we inhabit these bodies, there's a very good chance that we may at some point experience some form of discomfort. And so, whatever we're experiencing right now, let's try to understand it. And we begin, if you have something called a pain, a chronic pain, or some imbalance that you may be experiencing within your body, if you would like to feel better somehow physically, we begin by simply letting go of these labels, starting with that label called pain, that label called discomfort, hurt. And then we'll recognize it as a sensation. Simply a sensation, because it's the mind that gives it those labels: pain, discomfort. And why does the mind give it these labels? Because the mind has a memory of what it was like before these sensations arose. It might be 5 minutes ago, it might be 5 days ago, it might be 5 years ago. But now there are new sensations within the body. It might be arthritis, it might be a knee pain, a headache. But we know that simply changing our posture is not going to make it go away. And so it's staring at us right now as we sit here breathing. And then we begin to recognize that it's a part of the present moment. And the mind is calling it a pain. The mind is calling it uncomfortable because it wants to go back into the past, and so it resists the present moment. It wants to rewind the tape and go back to 5 days ago, 5 years ago, to that point where there was the absence of sensation. And so we begin now by simply releasing the past, by breathing out, symbolically just breathing in as deeply as you can. And then with a sigh of relief, just letting go of that past and arriving more fully into the present moment and giving permission to the sensation to exist. Perhaps even saying, I welcome you. I give you permission to arrive more fully into this moment. And then as we exhale, we release what's left of that desire to return back into the past. And as we breathe in, a new beginning, a new start, arriving more fully into this moment, into our bodies. Accepting, acknowledging the sensation is there. It's definitely there. But my starting point is I'm not going to call you a pain. I'm not going to push against you. I just want to experience peace, ease. And the only way this is going to happen at this particular moment as if I let go of my desire to move back into the past, or my desire to move into some future moment, imagined moment, where there is this absence of sensation. And as we make peace with the present moment, as we give these sensations permission to exist, our muscles begin to loosen themselves. Our cells begin to balance themselves and find greater ease. And then you begin to notice your immune system rising. And the immune system, it's very complex. It involves muscle, tissue, nerves, bone, and a intricate number of chemicals, a large number of chemicals within the body, all working together, all being, all surfacing like a balloon that's been trapped underwater for a very long time. Through the pushing and the shoving and the effort and the frustration. But as we let go, as we release, the balloon begins to surface. And you don't have to even hold on to the balloon. You just let go and it knows exactly what to do. It reaches the surface and then it dances and it moves from one wave to the other, knowing exactly which cells need to be balanced, which cells need to be repaired. And then you find yourself, your body beginning to repair itself, beginning to heal itself, because that's all medicines are. The medicines that we take externally, they're just chemicals which are trying to bring about these balances, but in a more artificial and temporary manner. But in this practice, it's a lot more stable, it's a lot more permanent. The repairing, it arrives. The balancing, the healing, it arrives and it stays. So we ground ourselves more fully into the present moment. And this was a short practice, perhaps directed more towards those of us who experience sensations or some of those labels, conditions that doctors have bestowed upon us. A moment ago we let go of the past, that need to return to that moment in the past, that need to project ourselves into the future, and we exhaled and we released that. Now, why don't we breathe in newness and freshness? And as we exhale, let us release those labels the doctors have given us, I'm a sufferer, or I'm suffering from so and so. The physical conditions, we breathe out and we release. And then we breathe in newness and freshness and lightness and healing and whatever else you want this new beginning to feel like. And then we exhale all those conditions that the mental doctors have given us, the psychiatrists, the psychologists, labels, manic depressant, bipolar, whatever else they've come up with. All those diagnoses, we exhale and we release, we let go. Because many of those are also associated with the mind. And we give permission to them to exist. And by giving permission, we step outside of the thought process. We stop engaging with our thoughts. And we ground ourselves into our bodies. And I'm going to ring the bell now. And we will practice. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but inhabit our bodies more deeply. A moment ago, we explored those parts of the body that were covered in clothing, but now we shall explore those parts of the body that are exposed to the air around us. Like never before. I know we've done this practice many, many times before, and even if you've never attended a meditation practice with us in this particular room, you might have done a similar practice in the past. But we remind ourselves this moment is a unique moment. The temperature is exactly as it is this moment. Our own body temperature is exactly as it is this moment. And this combination, it creates a completely different, unique sensation that may never be experienced again. And so we take it in this way and experience it for the first time as the bell rings. Arriving even more fully. Bringing a sense of ease. And if you like, surrendering your muscles to gravity. So that you could perhaps even feel gravity pull down on your shoulders. Pull down on your hands and your arms. Adjusting the spinal column so that the spinal column balances itself on the pelvic bone for no other reason than just to reduce the effort involved in holding our bodies in this position. If you like, you can even give your spinal column a stretch by inching the top end upward and then pressing the tail end downward. And this kind of stretches the spinal column, giving you a few more millimeters of height, and also allowing the fluids and the energies within the spinal column to flow more easily. And we all know the deep and strong connection between the spinal column, connected to the brain, performing almost all of our bodily functions, something we often take for granted. but for a few moments, just being more deliberate and experiencing the spinal column and the posture. And finally awakening those exposed areas of skin,